And in this house, the most dire, horrible events took place.
You are not content with the stories. Somebody's lives come. Be my victim.
Through watching scenes of violence, through watching scenes of transgression, through watching scenes of horror. There's an enormous amount of sort of abattoir of excess.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
Good evening, chat. Hit that refresh. Hit the refresh if you haven't done it already, folks. We are live because this stream is like a shanty, always on time, always there when you call. Hey, I gave you my all, guys.
Oh, what a throwback!
I've got to do it. I've got to do that. I hope. Fez, I obviously don't know what you mean, but it probably never went away. Not that I know what you mean. Anyway, I hope you're well. I hope you're having a fantastic week. I have been a little bit naughty. I have had packages flooding the house because I've gone on a bit of a research splurge, and I have got books on horror and analyses, critical analyses, a book of horror directors' favorite horrors. I've got those all flooding to the house. It's been amazing. I'm loving it. But if you want to be absolutely darling and send a super chat to cover the cost of my growing research library of highly specific reference material, you'll be super welcome. For instance, if you want to follow in the wonderful footsteps of John Gorris here.
I love that segue. Well done. Oh, that was smooth.
Oh, I was going to do that shill anyway because I've just had packages arriving today, and I thought I should balance out my awful habit. But John Gorris, you give me such a smooth segue. Thank you so much for $20. I really appreciate it. Would I consider covering Bloody Pit of Horror? It's from 65 and is sort of a proto-torture prawn, and it's rather meta to boot. 65 and meta. I am intrigued. I am very intrigued.
$20 and suggestion. You should be very intrigued.
I think we have to. Yeah, I'm interested. Tell you what, that will go in if you want. That can go in at the end of March. That can be our audience selection at the end of March. And I will make a little note of it. We will cover Bloody Pit of Horror at the end of March. Thank you very much for the suggestion.
Boom.
Yeah, much appreciated, John. And if you want to follow in his good footsteps, if you are watching on the replay, because I know most people do not catch this live, love you guys who are watching on the replay. You can leave a super thanks to cover my absolutely ridiculous book habits. I'm of the kind where, okay, if in my defense, most of these books I'm getting on Better World Books or A Books, and they're about 2p with £3 postage. You know, it's that kind of deal.
Yeah,
I love it. Yeah, libraries are chucking them out, and I'm just hoovering them up like some kind of white powder at the BBC staff party. But other times they are very specialist, and I'm having to get them sent from America. So it's like they're either 2p, or they're £60. So it's a oh, look at this.
Nice.
Bloody Pit of Horror. I love it. So many great horrors just completely slip under the radar, and they're just on YouTube. There we go. We are 100% doing Bloody Pit of Horror. I will make a note once I've got a moment. So I've done a bit of shilling. I've begged for some coins to balance out my crippling addiction to research material. And at this point, I should probably stop babbling and welcome our guests. We have, of course, our returning resident horror expert. Sorry, Lovecraft expert, but also, you know, pretty darn knowledgeable in horror as well. Murgoot, how are you doing, sir?
Oh, pretty good. How are you doing today?
Busy. Oh, Gatsby's speaking for me. I'm doing well. I'm looking forward to this one. This has been a surprising bit of horror homework for me. And of course, as always, it wouldn't be a double feature horror show without him. And you know why? It's because he's such a head trip to listen to. Because he's only given you things you joke about with your friends inside your living room. Yeah, the only difference is he's got the balls to say it in front of you all. And he doesn't have to be false or sugarcoat it at all. It's that crime guy.
I just get on the mic and spit it, and whether you like to admit it, I just shit better than 90% of you out here.
How far in did I get before you knew exactly what it was?
Oh my god, it was like the first bar, and I didn't know when you were going to stop, so I was like,
I was going to stop earlier, but I really love that bit. So
yeah, it's a good one. I like that one.
Yeah, absolute classic, absolute classic. And how are you doing?
It has been a very busy week, but I've got a couple of days off from my main job, so that's a nice one. We actually we went to go and see the Matilda musical today.
Ooh, hello.
And yeah, it was at one of these cinemas where they don't have chairs; they actually have sofas, and they bring the food right to you. It was very, very nice, and actually cheaper than our local cinema as well, which is shocking for the service that you get at this place. So.
Is that an everyman theatre?
It most certainly is.
Oh, I've had such good times in those. Oof.
Me and the wife are probably going to go and see Scream 6 in there when it comes out.
Oh yeah. Oh, I mean, get ready for that emergency stream. March 10th, we are doing it.
Absolutely.
I might just like open that up to people who are around. If they're friends of the show, if they want to hop on, we'll do a bit of an emergency stream on that one.
Yeah. Yes.
You know, speaking of sofas and cinemas, would it surprise you to know that one of the initial stipulations in the regulation of cinemas was that the backs had to be lighted?
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I can't think why, but for some reasons they wanted to make very sure that cinemas ensured the very backs were lit up.
I can imagine, to stop all the freaks from making out in the back. I remember one time, one of my earliest experiences of cinema, right, was Aladdin when that first came out. And my mum took me to go and see that. And
where's this going?
Well, I wanted to sit at the back because I was young and I was like, you know what, I wanted to see. I didn't really want anyone in the way, so sort of like you had near the aisle. And as I was sitting there, I look over to my left and I see these two people proper going at it. And yeah, my mother was not impressed.
What's she doing, Mummy?
She got the rolling pin out and thought patrolled, and you know.
Don't worry, little TCG. She's just trying to summon a genie.
But like, of all the films to do that at, why would you do that at an Aladdin film?
Oh, rubbing his lamp in the back row.
Exactly, yeah. Getting one of his 3 wishes.
Absolutely disgraceful. Disavow. Honestly, this is a family-friendly stream, and we are not in favour of that. Yeah, that was just one of the little things I picked up in my research. I had not found it written about elsewhere, but it is in John Trevelyan's memoirs, What the Censor Saw. But
speaking of the BBFC, did you get my message today about there being a BBFC app?
Yeah, I just saw that, but I didn't have a chance to look it up. What do we know about the BBFC app?
So again, I learned of this whilst going through the trailers for the Matilda film, and essentially what it is, it's just like a forum for like middle-aged women to vent about how disgusting some scenes are in films.
I am not middle-aged.
Yeah, it's essentially
much older.
From what I understand, it kind of works as like a review app. Kind of like your IMDb, but I imagine they've got some like BBFC gloss in there as well for like what sort of a bit more expansion as to what the certifications mean. I haven't downloaded it yet. I'm definitely going to.
We're going to have to, aren't we?
We're going to have to, yeah. That's going to be It's going to be part of a BBFC review, no doubt.
I'll just drop one final thing. I'm going to be finishing off. We have got one final thing to do for rounding up the BBFC thing, followed by a discussion. Like, we just want to have a big discussion on censorship. Not a debate exactly, but we will sort of bounce around different perspectives, because there are a lot of different perspectives on this here. But I don't want to finish the series before I record my effectively redoing the first 4 bits, because when I did them on stream, I was bricking it. And I just, as I've said, I don't think I did the best job with that material. So I'm going to record them again in lecture format with much smoother delivery, more filthy memes, and in the presentation that's a bit more in the style of the channel now.
Lovely.
So there we go. All right. And I'll just note, I'm delaying this so much, guys. I love that you're patient with me. I just want to say, welcome to Needle and Fur. It's good to see you back. It's good to see you back. We got some old friends in tonight, and it's lovely. I'm glad to see you in the chat. Well, I'll get on with this wonderful stream that we're going to have, because this was a bit of a delight. We're going to go so positive. This topic section is going to sound quite negative and grim. Do not be fooled. We're moving into delights once we get to the actual films. But I'm just going to talk a little bit about HP Lovecraft and Oswald Spengler, which I hadn't reset. All right. What the heck am I doing? Look at these happy chaps.
Hang on. Is this Zuckerberg versus Schwab?
Oh gosh. Oh no. Schwabler.
This Zuckercraft.
Oh yeah. I can't unsee it. Has anyone done the AI mod to really make us the Loveberg?
Yeah, nobody sent me that on Twitter yet or on my Discord.
Get on it, folks. Get on it, folks. All right. What are we doing here? Well, we have talked a fair few times about the influences on Lovecraft. I think you've heard me talk about who he was inspired by. So Lord Dunsany. Lovecraft was inspired, of course, by Edgar Allan Poe. But there are other influences on him. Sorry?
Arthur Machen, Algernon Blackwood.
Algernon Blackwood, definitely. I am going to try and get a recording together of Blackwood's The Wendigo, as that seems to have been quite influential on the Dunwich horror, and I thought that's going to be pretty cool. But obviously other influences were around, and one of them was a chap by the name of Oswald Spengler. Now, for some of you lovely people, you're going to say, oh, fantastic, Spengler talk. For a lot of you, you're going to wonder what the heck I've turned up on a horror channel. Who is this weird German guy? Okay, do not worry. This is a lad who was, I think, relatively influential on Lovecraft. We're going to talk a little bit about his worldview. We're going to talk about where Lovecraft agreed with him, where Lovecraft disagreed with him, and how some of the Spenglerian ideas turn up in Lovecraft's work. We're just going to do a quick overview because I have only recently got my copy of Spengler's Decline of the West, and I haven't managed to read all of it. I am mostly taking this from our regular Lovecraft expert book, S T Joshi's Lovecraft, The Decline of the West. Now, this book is obviously calling itself after Oswald Spengler's book, The Decline of the West. Here you've got the German edition, Der Untergang des Abendlandes, and Decline of the West is the title given to it by Charles Atkinson. I realise if you're just hitting the stream right now, this is a weird thing to see. This isn't what you're expecting on a horror channel. We're talking about a guy who is an influence on Lovecraft, and you're going to see some of his ideas turn up in Lovecraft's work, just like we talked about with Edgar Allan Poe. So hi for everyone coming in. Hey, Marina. Sometimes you come into this stream at a weird point, guys. Trust me, it's all relevant. So what do we have? Oswald Spengler writes, Der Untergang des Abendlandes. Untergang is, you've probably seen it as Downfall, if you remember the Oscar-winning film directed by Oliver, I want to say Hirschspiegel. I might be remembering that wrong. That was called Der Untergang, about the last days of the failed Austrian painter in the bunker. That was Untergang. so that's where we know that that was translated as downfall. Here it's the decline. In 1918, he publishes part 1, then part 2 in 1922. It gets translated first in 1926 and then 28. And our boy HP Lovecraft, Howard Phillips Lovecraft, gets his hands on a copy in 1927. So he isn't wasting around. Sorry, he's not wasting any time. He gets his hand on this pretty quick, doesn't he?
Well, hang on. He gets part 1 9 years after the original came out.
Well, no, he gets a translation. I do not believe Lovecraft spoke any German.
Gotcha.
I know he studied the classics languages, but I do not believe that he studied German at any point.
I am worried that he partially agreed with a German.
Well, we'll cover some of those views. I also say Loki. Mr. GB, when that book comes out, I am going to do a video on Lovecraft as a prophet of doom, because I think it's he deserves to be in there, frankly. But yes. Okay. So he gets his hands on the book very quickly, and it appeals to him. Why does Lovecraft go for this book? What's in it? What excites him about it? Well, some of the ideas that Spengler has that are quite interesting are his vision of history as a history of grand cultures. So not the history of great men, but the history of entire cultures over a massive span. We're talking centuries. Maverick, yes, he did. Yeah, Lovecraft, for all he's... Lovecraft is a complex man who, like all of us, goes through many ideas over his lifetime. And while he had some reservations about foreign cultures, he described them in ways that would get you fired from your job nowadays. He also married a woman that he was very enamored of, and she was very good at sort of drawing him out of his shell. I think Amy talked about it a bit more on the literature stream.
Mm-hmm.
So there we go.
He was also very good friends with Robert Bloch, who is Jewish.
Yes.
Several others of his circle were Jewish. Barlow, who he visited in Florida, and Barlow visited him in Providence, was, well, I can't say that on YouTube. He was flaming. Which in the 30s was, he was rather spectacularly gay. And Lovecraft had no problems with him. He was good friends with him.
Yes. Like I say, a complex man. You will not get this if you see the marketing where everyone is sort of, oh, Lovecraft was brilliant, but disavow, let me make money off him. He's a complex man, and that is why he's worth talking about. So Spengler he looks at things in terms of massive time spans. He's not interested in decades, he's interested in millennia. So he's talking about cultures in a way that we should be a bit more specific about. So he's thinking of like the Western culture, the Chinese culture, the Islamic culture, and think of it more in terms of by culture. Think of it as like the story of a people, as it would be called a biospirit by some. So think of it in terms of a people, and it's these people, the peoples who generate civilizations. So there's not one giant uniform civilization that is growing up, but each culture, each people is making their own version of civilization specific to them. And that's quite interesting. One of the things that is really difficult to get your head around, and I find myself struggling against it so much when I read this, is his idea that there is no universal logic, because logic is inherent to each civilization. This is an idea you often would associate with something very typically left-wing, cultural and moral relativism. And this is a version of that idea from completely the other side of the spectrum. So Spengler puts in this idea that basically the Western civilization has the idea of really preferencing rationalism. And I just read that and I'm sitting there like, but facts. But 5 + 5 = 10, and it always equals 10. What are you talking about? And you might say, yeah, he'd probably say yes, you would say that. Anyway, it's one of those ideas that is very tricky to get your head around. Now, he also builds into this, as he's like the idea of the culture as a living thing, the culture as an organism. Built into that is the idea that cultures grow and they mature and then they die. The cultures pass into a period of decline, which is, of course, where we get this title, Decline of the West. So Spengler is writing this talking about the West as a culture that is dying. As I said, we're moving on to so much positivity in the stream, but this is a glum book. This is very contrary to the spirit of the time when people were talking about, you know, we're coming up, we're progressing, technology is on the way. We've had a world war, the Great War, but we're coming out of it, guys. And Spengler's there saying like, no, downfall. It's all going downhill, guys. You can see why Lovecraft would like this guy. You've watched these streams, you know that Lovecraft is there saying, no, it's downhill. We need to rev turn.
Yeah.
Yes.
it must be I'm just saying it must be an incredibly slow decline. was there some sort of like Algorian-esque prediction in these books as to when this decline would reach its point?
Oh, that's a really good question. I can't answer it. I wish I knew.
Okay.
I wish I knew. I mean, I know how Lovecraft says it's going to end up, right? That's
okay.
Great Azathoth is going to wake up and the dream of our civilization will end.
Oh.
I don't know what Spengler would say about that, but, you know, we're talking a huge time span. So Spengler here is putting the high point of our civilization in 1800. And saying we've been in decline since then. We've been dying since then.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I said, this is extremely counter to the ideas at the time. It's counter to the ideas right now. You know?
Oh man, Spengler just sounds like a massive doomer.
He's a total doomer,
mate, big time.
I'll confess I found a photo of him smiling, but I didn't want to use it. I do have Lovecraft smiling as well. I might use that at some point.
Don't do that. No, don't.
So where do they agree? They both agree that decline is occurring. Now I should actually remember to illustrate this with some quotes from Joshi. Did I think I already used this, didn't I? That I've got the Spengler quote there. Yes, that's a quote from Spengler. Hopefully you all read that.
I did. Yeah.
Right. So the decline is occurring. We are not on the rise. And we also should note that it's not long after Lovecraft gets his hand on Spengler's book that they have the great stock market crash. So that probably fueled his doomerism.
Yeah.
Okay. So he writes in his letters of the next Spenglerian collapse of civilization. And we've got a quote that Joshi found here. So even upon his first reading of Spengler, Lovecraft is asserting the independent derivation of his views. It is my belief, and was so long before Spengler put his seal of scholarly proof on it, that our mechanical industrial age is one of frank decadence, so far removed from normal life and ancestral conditions as to make impossible its expression in artistic media. Which really you can read in that, you can think, okay, this is coming from a guy who's rejecting current society, saying, no, we go back to classics, we go back to 1800 style. I don't like modern literature. I'm going to reject modern spelling, and I'm going to go back to the older styles. That's what we're going to do. You can see how his mindset sort of is coherent there. As we talked about, yes, 1800s was peak Western culture. Lovecraft there, using a lot of writers of that time. That is his inspiration. That is who he is, largely basing his works on early on before he develops his own style. You know, he does progress, but his early works are very much close to Dunsany, Lord Dunsany, closer to Poe from that period. As you will have been told about many times, they both saw the world as in terms of competing racial groups, and the presence of foreign racial groups in America was largely not a thing that Howard Phillips Lovecraft saw as a positive thing.
I wonder why it wasn't a thing back in the 1800s.
Yeah, when his wife moved him to New York, was it New York actually? I think I'm
New
wrong.
York City, Red Hook in New York.
It was New York. There we go. Thank you.
Really bad part of town, still is.
He didn't see the most positive side of it, and it was a bit of a shock to him. I think, interestingly, he seems to have been particularly horrified by Chinese immigrants. For all the attention that's put on him, that seems to have been what he was exposed to and most upset by. So he writes in some of the stories about, I don't know if I can actually quote this on YouTube. Okay, I'll just say he writes a story where the vision of our civilization having declined is evidenced by a few remaining peoples. How can I say? Of a character that you would obviously recognize as Chinese, but I would not use his descriptions on YouTube. Susan may be on the way out, but nevertheless. Anyway, so yes, they're both seeing things in terms of racial groups competing. Remember, Spengler talks about whole cultures, whole biospirits building their massive civilizations. Spicy references in chat. Behave, chat. Oh, no. Oh, dear.
Girl, I'm about to have a panic attack.
Oh, dear. Yes. So you can see why Spengler is seeing it in that way. And Lovecraft is just, he grows up in Providence and he's shocked when he goes to the big city and he doesn't see the best side of things, you know? You've got to remember those, how can I say, there's a lot less cultural. If you think there is a lack of assimilation now, you've got to think what it's like when there's really no infrastructure to easily mass communicate culture. And so people are forming diasporas that are very undiluted. So it's a prime ground for tension. And that's what Lovecraft saw, and it did not give him a good impression. We've also got technological skepticism. So not a fan of technology. There's a really, really great quote about that. I'm saving it for the end. And they didn't like democracy either. I've got a couple of quotes here. Spengler's coming from a Nietzschean angle. So basically saying that basically the masses aren't voting, they aren't making decisions, they're following the money power, and the money power is a result of a Nietzschean will to power, which basically gets itself elected. And Lovecraft, equally skeptical, basically does not think people want to vote, don't want to make decisions to themselves, and those who would naturally form part of an aristocracy remain an aristocracy via a slightly extended, convoluted process, basically. So I've got quotes there illustrating that. We can't go all the... Oh. I don't want to say the chat has been won already, but you're going to have to really try hard to beat that chat. That is amazing. Amazing, amazing, my goodness. Well done, Dr. Prepper. What else? Decadence is decay. Yes, they agree. So where do they disagree? Where would Howard and Oswald have themselves a bit of a Barney if they'd got on the Buckfast? They would have a big disagreement over whether the things that they see as negatives, which they very much agree on, are the symptom or the cause. So there are sort of 4 key things that Lovecraft considers a terrible downside. So he's against democracy. He prefers aristocracy. He's against capitalism. He prefers feudalism or aristocracy. Very much against immigration and in favor of racial homogeneity. And he dislikes mechanization and prefers an agriculture-based civilization. Now, Lovecraft...
Just to stop you there. Let's say, for example, if he got his preferred... let's say if he got his preferences, I'm just curious as to whether you would know whether Lovecraft would be in a position to benefit from those preferences or not.
Well, he came from a New England bluestocking family, well-to-do, well-established, upper middle class. And then the fall from grace, his grandfather misinvested in things and died. But Lovecraft held very patrician views, very snobby. A gentleman should not do manual labor. Later in life, he was basically he was a socialist near the end of his life. Not so much a monarchist, but the elite should make sure everybody is provided for and yada, 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 yada. But he was very aristocratic in his manner because that's how he was raised.
Yeah. So, what is it? What is it? AA calls it something preferences. Oh my God.
Revealed preference.
Revealed preferences. Yes. Yes.
I mean, yeah, he couldn't adapt. He couldn't do the, he couldn't basically fit into regular stuff. He was not built for that. Lovecraft just, he stuck true to his vision, much, to his wife's consternation. Basically the marriage failed because he couldn't do the big city thing. And he stayed and just grafted and wrote and didn't really adapt to the times. He's really interesting because he stays true to himself. He never bent the knee to current trends.
Of course.
Which is quite interesting. He's a true artist in that way. And he, just ended. Yeah, he was often penniless because of it. Very poor, I should say, rather than penniless.
I just think something like that. It sounds reminiscent of what you hear a lot of today when people talk about what their preferences are, and it's a lot of fit the world around me and not me adapt and not me adapt to the changes that are happening around me. It just sounds to me like Lovecraft was someone who, like you said, failed to adapt to those changes because sort of between sort of like the 1850s, especially in the 20th century with the Industrial Revolution, there were huge changes that happened across not just the Western world but the world over, and it just sounds like Lovecraft was somebody who just wasn't able to adapt to that and almost integrate himself into what the world was becoming. And because he couldn't do that, he saw the changes around him as automatic negatives, and the only way that he could succeed would be to revert back to how things were when he and his kind were doing all right. And it's always
he did call himself a man out of time.
Well, of course,
definitely.
Being raised in a wealthy family with long history in New England, very long. I don't think he was attached to the Mayflower, but very close to that time.
It's very revealing then why he named his cat the way he did.
Yeah.
I don't want a pet cat.
Not just the one cat. It seems to be an ongoing thing with him.
Oh, there you go.
Lots of his cats have spicy names.
Right.
His mother secluding him, his fragile mental health, his parents both having mental breakdowns. I mean, he was out of the loop. He basically hid in his house for 5 years when he was in his teens. And he was raised a certain way and it all fell down around his ears. Of course, he'd be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
He just, like you said, he never learned to adapt.
Which, you know, I can understand.
I've also failed to adapt the stream, and guys, you should cause a decline of the like button by pushing it down so it declines. I don't know. Smash like, guys. I forgot to say it on YouTube.
Wait, Horace, are you telling people to unlike the stream?
I'm calling it push it down.
Decline the like.
Yes, push down on it. This will have no bad consequences.
Could I elaborate on the cat's name, Mr. Gently Benevolent asks?
Do it on your own stream.
I tell you what, when I hit 25 subscribers on Rumble, okay, I can live stream on there, okay? And you
look it up.
No, not here.
Look it up, or Mr. Benevolent.
Yeah, a simple Google search will suffice. Or if you don't like using Google, just go to DuckDuckGo.
Well, I'll tell you, the story that you can find one of his spicy cats in is very relevant to that, and that's the rats and the wolves, and that's so relevant to that. This is about a guy sort of returning to the root of his family and going into the line of his people. So think of Spengler's biospirit and almost sort of like basically fatalism, predetermination. If you are but not on the level of a whole type of people or racial subgroup, but just on the level of the family. That's what Lovecraft condenses it down to in Rats in the Walls. I nearly got confused with the Whisper in Darkness. You can see that kind of ideas of decline from the aristocratic to the modern, but the deep-seated nature of aristocracy remaining in someone. Of course, it doesn't work out well for him, but never mind. Yeah,
I'm really annoyed actually because I was in Waterstones earlier today and I could have picked up one of 12 of Lovecraft short stories, and that Rats in the Wall was one of them.
Oh man,
yeah.
I can send.
Marina just did the Google search.
Oh, yeah, Marina, we did not want to risk it because it turns up in the story 19 times. So he said what it was, and then we referred to the cat as Black Boy afterwards.
I'm also going to say none of us are black, so you know.
Yeah, but
and
Susan doesn't let us.
Yeah, and as a Scottish, and not that I would say it, but the Scottish court, as the Scottish courts decided in the Count Dankula case, context doesn't matter. So I am not risking it. Very true.
I'm
only 7,500 subscribers in. I don't want to get cancelled just yet.
Yeah, goodness me. All right, I should probably get through this. So okay, so they're agreed on what are bad things in society, not stuff that YouTube would agree with. But the big difference is that Lovecraft is viewing those things as the cause of the decline of the West, whereas Spengler sees it the other way. He says that it's because the West declines that those things are happening, because the West is entering its decadent and decline phase, that you are starting to get immigration, that you are starting to get the reliance on mechanization. So it's a big disagreement between them there.
Yeah. And again, sorry, with what I said about Lovecraft and would his revealed preferences benefit him in that, because I assume they would, because I'm not I wouldn't advocate for something that would be detrimental to me. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, heck no.
So with Spengler, I'm assuming that would be very much the same then. Was he thinking aristocracy and feudalism and all that jazz as well?
I believe so, but I will put my hands up. I am getting my Spengler secondhand because I haven't had time to go through the book.
Fair enough.
But I believe that is true. And I will be corrected by any Spengler expert. So, yeah, always think of standpoint theory. This is a very good thing to bear in mind. Always think it's just thing else. You'd always think, who is saying it? You know, and it's not saying they're right or wrong, but it helps understand perspectives. And the idea of it sort of leads us into something that's a bit of a paradox in Lovecraft that I just wanted to highlight, that Lovecraft seems to believe that the people are degenerating because of, you know, the cities, the technology, the immigration, the lack of aristocracy, the use of democracy. But weirdly, a lot of his stories, he pictures degenerating from the other direction as well, from the absence of proximity to the cities. So he's viewing the cities as this big source of horror, wrecking everything. He couldn't stand it in his own life. And he also writes stories where people who are far away from the cities start degenerating because of that. I'll read you a little quote here. So this is Beyond the Wall of Sleep, one of his stories. He writes of a character that he is one of those strange repellent scions of primitive colonial peasant stock whose isolation for nearly 3 centuries in the hilly fastnesses of a little travelled countryside has caused them to sink to a kind of barbaric degeneracy rather than advance with their more fortunately placed brethren of the thickly settled districts. That's a bit of a paradox. I don't know if we have time to get all the way into it, but my goodness, that's something that strikes me as a little interesting. Maybe Lovecraft believes that the answer is a bit of a happy middle. You know, if everywhere stays radical centrism, you know, the happy middle of a town like Providence with lots of history, but not too much innovation, not too much change, not too much tech. Any thoughts on that, Murgoot?
Yeah, yes. He really felt for the people out in the backwoods inbreds. Basically the stereotype we have now of the Appalachians, but he felt pity for them where he felt hostility to large cities with lots of miscegenation. It's both made him uncomfortable, but he understood the decline better than he did the rural people who declined far more than he understood the urban areas.
Yeah. Someone's also raised Dr. Prepper. Yes, it's so interesting you say that. We're overrunning a little bit, so I don't know. I won't go into it, but as you mentioned the Dunwich Horror, that is one of the best evidences of exactly what we're talking about. So last week we went on for a little bit about how Wilbur Whately is, you know, a very close analogue to Lovecraft himself in terms of life history and attitude, and Dunwich Horror is, you know, exactly depicting what you say there. That sort of degenerating from inbreeding and isolation. There's also a minor distinction that Lovecraft's preference ends up going far further back than Spengler's. He's praising the Romans and ancient Greeks for a long time and still holding them in great regard. And a final thing on this is just digging a little more into Spengler's view on what's causing this decline. Now, he obviously views this as a fatalist, unavoidable cycle. Every culture, every people is affected by this. Their civilization kicks off, it grows, it flourishes, it matures, and then it loses its vitality. And Spengler believes that the transition into decline is happening when you move from a vital civilization into one much more guided by intellectualism. Obviously, as a big brain channel doing convoluted reads, I disavow intellectualism all the way, folks. But that's his take on it. So it's moving into the more intellect-led style of things, effectively handing over to an intellectual elite and detaching yourself from the natural, vital aspects of life that start causing your downfall. And that really kind of rhymes with Lovecraft in a very interesting way. Now, I've got an extended quotation here that I'm going to have to find. Here we go. Got it. So let's see how much Lovecraft's idea here. And yes, folks, I have misspelt ennui. I tried to correct it, but when I shared it to StreamYard, it is not picking up my corrections. So now we all have to look at that S on the end of ennui and just feel slightly disgusted. Talk about decline, people. Presenter can't even type. Anyway.
Foundations in writing. Buy it now.
Yeah. Oh, I should specify one extra thing, which is that Lovecraft writes, we don't have time to go into it, but there's so many times where Lovecraft just writes about our civilization as something that's just gone. He makes us very insignificant, something that's just, even at our peak, we are beneath the civilization of the old ones. There's so much that he goes into it in At the Mountains of Madness. It's a really great demonstration of him making our civilization just pitiful, in great contrast to the attitude at the time of civilization is just on the way up, guys. Okay. So Lovecraft on toil versus ennui. Spengler has written about you want to be involved in these vital, energetic life processes. And when you lead to rationalism and intellectualism guiding your society, that is when you are on the downfall. What does Lovecraft say? Oh, no, sorry. I'm quoting Joshi now. How can we not recall Lovecraft's resounding condemnation of the machine age, written about 10 months earlier? And this is Lovecraft now. Granted that the machine victim has leisure, what is he going to do with it? What memories and experiences has he to form a background to give significance to anything he can do? What has heretofore made life tolerable for the majority is the fact that their natural workaday routine and milieu have never been quite devoid of the excitement, nature contact, uncertainty, non-repetition, and free and easy irregularity which build up a background of associations calculated to foster the illusion of significance and make possible the real enjoyment of art and literature. Without this help from their environment, the majority could never manage to keep contented. Now that it is fading, they are in a bad plight indeed, for they cannot hope to breast the tide of ennui as a stronger-minded minority can. There will be, of course, high-sounding and flabbily idealistic attempts to help the poor devils. We shall hear all sorts of futile reforms and reformers, standardized culture outlines, synthetic sports and spectacles, professional play leaders and study guides, and kindred examples of machine-made uplift and brotherly spirit, and it will amount to just about as much as most reforms do. Meanwhile, the tension of boredom and unsatisfied imagination will increase, breaking out with increasing frequency in crimes of morbid perversity and explosive violence.
What?
He's saying, basically, if you have it too good, you get bored and get up to stuff. It's the equivalent of if you don't provide... It sounds a little bit like if you don't make sure there's youth clubs and stuff for people to do, they'll smash stuff up.
What?
I'm trivializing it there.
No,
He's talking about if you are removing the struggle from life, basically, the extra time is only going to be put to bad use. In short, toil is good. Not for him, but
yeah, exactly. Not for me, but for the. I mean, I can see the logic behind it, but you know, I mean, look at our society now. You know, we're so far more technologically advanced than how it was back in 100 years ago. I imagine it almost sounds like to me that he thinks that because of the innovations at that time, like new jobs wouldn't be created as a result of that, so people wouldn't, you know, be able to take up more of the, you know, wouldn't be able to utilize their time working other jobs, therefore blah blah blah.
Look at this cascade.
Yes,
You absolutely dabbed on by the chat there.
Yeah. But you know, people are creative, and you know, it's I would say that, you know, the advancements that we've had aids creativity. I think if we got to a point where who was it who said it? I can't remember. I'm not going to repeat it then because I don't want to misquote the person. But essentially, you know, I think the more technologically advanced we become, or the more the society changes, I think the more creative. We'll always look at ways of being creative, and we'll always look at ways of innovating, and we'll always look at ways of adapting and overcoming. I'm sorry, Lovecraft to me just sounds like a brilliant writer, amazing horror author, but he sounds like a guy who just struggled with changes in the world, and he didn't like it, and he wanted to go back to a time where basically things were worse for the common man because, you know, it benefited him. Don't get me wrong, like there's problems with our society today, but there were problems with society, you know, 10 years, 20 years. I mean, if there weren't, then why would he be wanting to advocate to go back to the 1850s? Nowadays, you hear people say return to the 1950s. Lovecraft, it sounds to me like he would have absolutely hated living in that time.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so, you know, why is the 50s good for us and not, you know, the 1950s good for us and not for him? Well, for me, it's the same issue. I think it's people struggling to adapt or enforce. I mean, for those who probably aren't familiar with my politics, quote unquote, I'm very much a localist. I very much, and when I say local, I mean like in the extreme. My group is very much limited to friends, family, stuff outside of that. If I can't control it, I tend not to care about it too much, but I try and be, you know, as good an example as I can be for those who are in my circle. And then I think because
Dunbar's number build.
Yeah, well, but you know, and I feel like if I can do that within that area, then that would radiate outwards, you know, almost spiritually, not philosophically, but you know, embrace Trumpton.
I like that. I mean, you know, we are not a typical channel here, but I think we are all Thomas Sowell appreciators. We've all read Thomas Sowell here, and we know there is no instant solution that gets you absolutely everything. No. Everything is trade-offs, and I mean, quite sympathetic to Lovecraft here. I think that
I can understand because I mean, there's certain aspects of you know of times before that I would love to see back. You know, you know, just sort of like the 50s as an example. You know, like the American sort of like milkshake places that you could, you know, back in the day where you could go and you could see. Yeah. I mean, if you were, you know, while it'd be great for for someone with a tone of skin like mine, it'd be quite awesome. But then other people might look at that and go, well, actually, that was a bad time. You know, because whilst it was great, you know, whilst you'd look at that with rose-tinted spectacles, other people would look at that and think, well, actually, no, that those times were even worse for someone who didn't have, you know, literally the same civil rights as other people. It like you said, it's trade-offs, and I use some examples of like YouTube shorts I see where like black people are like, oh yeah, let's go back to the 1950s, and obviously it's a joke because they go back and they're like, oh man, it's horrible. But then you see other people like, oh no, that'd be idealistic, and I sort of point that out when people sort of mention that. It's like, you know, there are good aspects that you would love to have incorporated in times like times that you live in today, because you know there's some genuinely good things that have been lost to time. But if you say you want to go back to that sort of environment as a whole, then you know you have to then also accept the negative stuff that comes with it as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's sort of, as I say, we're not saying that everything is exactly perfect, but we will, you know, I would I would always
And
say that with technology, like the temptation to go for comfort is often the downfall of us. So, you know,
but I think
which is weird when we're streaming on the internet right now to say, yeah, I don't know about that, but it's the sort of thing of, would we be better off if we're, you know, I kind of love it if all of us here, I'd love it if we're all in the pub, you know, I'd love to be just nattering and, you know, like sort of, what's the phrase, clinking glasses with you all.
Yeah.
But the equivalent for that now is that I do this online.
But we can still do that. We could literally still do that. There's nothing stopping you from stopping us from doing. I mean, obviously, you know, Murgoot, get.
Where's my pint then? Come on, TCG. I want my pint of brandy.
Yeah, so I just got nipped to the loo. We'll be back in a sec. I mean, there's literally nothing stopping us from. I mean, like literally today, what you could do is we could all go to the pub with a laptop and boot up a stream.
Oh my god!
You know,
pub stream. We should
pub stream. Literally pub stream.
Go for it one day. All right, yeah. I should probably not let us.
Joe says actually Joe says it quite well. We would not want to live like cavemen, but cavemen would not want to live like us. That's
very true.
To surmise it, to surmise it, that's it. You know, you drag someone from like the 1500s, for example. Obviously, they're not cavemen, but you drag them into today's. No, Aaron, I do love nostalgia. Trust me, I'm a nostalgia nerd. But I'm just
1387 John Smith represents.
But yeah, you drag someone from the 1500s into today's world, and they'd be like, "Oh my god, return to 1500s."
Yeah, I mean,
we go back to the 1500s. We say go back to the 21st century.
I would like to imagine me just like, you know, going through the portal, grabbing the hand of my great grandfather and great grandmother, and say, "You see, you trust me. You don't want." Can you imagine the slap my great grandmum would give me if I said, "No, you don't want this washing machine or dishwasher. No, you trust me. It's good for you." Can you imagine how many teeth she'd take out of me? If I say to my great granddad was a blacksmith, he actually was. If I said, "Look, I know you're covered in burns and backbreaking labor, but you know, look, the alternative is you'd probably be a bit chubby, you know what I mean?" I don't want to say that to a guy with that many hammers, you know.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you know, this is just ended. I'm so glad I did this. This is a rich topic. I'm going to give you guys a massive spoiler. There was so much when I was doing this that kind of waylaid me because I don't know much about Spengler, but reading all this really put me in mind of another person. I think I'm going to do a separate video for you all on Howard Lovecraft and a certain cabin-dwelling mathematician. Now, you know Lovecraft wrote a heck of a lot of letters, hundreds and thousands of them. But I know someone else who made great famous use of the postal service. And I'm going to...
proper, no biscuits.
Oh, no. I love this from... Sorry, I just love this from me. But when I got back from Africa, the first thing I did was hug my washing machine.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, Morgoth would just be tutting at our level of Spengler understanding, but we can only aspire to his level. But yes, I think I will do a video on how Lovecraft and Kaczynski sort of where they share ideas, where they differ, etc. I think that'd just be interesting. It's just comparing viewpoints. It'd be very interesting if I can find any reference in Kaczynski to Lovecraft, but. Anyway, that is going to come. We are going to get onto that later. But for now, we should move on to discussions of the films. I'd love this. I didn't expect this would be as rich a topic as it was, but I'm chuffed. Oh. Let's move on, folks. Okay, so we did 2 bits of homework tonight. And even though we've done 2 bits of homework for this week's stream, it was less than the usual. We had a 46-minute feature in the Call of Cthulhu, and we had a 93-minute film for Underwater. This is efficient. Yeah, very efficient. If you don't mind, Murgoot, would you mind telling us a little bit about the Call of Cthulhu from 2005? A few minutes on how it was made and the style of it, if you're happy to do that.
Okay. Call of Cthulhu 2005 was a labor of love by the HP Lovecraft Historical Society. They gathered a budget of $50,000. They got together in Los Angeles, got their film, got the cameras, got the green screen, and got a few set pieces. And they made a labor of love. For a long time, Call of Cthulhu was considered unfilmable. They decided that the best way of doing it was to go back to do a silent picture where they could throw in the dialogue on cards. They could, they went the Harryhausen route and went with wireframe. They made cardboard sets, basically plasterboard rolling sets for Riley. And it all worked out fabulously with the lighting and the and they're very proud of it, and they should be.
Absolutely.
One interesting fact is the dialogue cards. They have it in 25 languages, including Luxembourgish, Hungarian, Catalan, Castellano, Galician, most of the European languages, Lithuanian, Finnish, and those are all included on the DVD. So you could watch it in any language you wanted to, basically.
Yeah, my only problem was the resolution I had it in was bad. I would love to see it in at least sort of 720p would be lovely.
Yeah,
but
they did film it in HD, and it does in HD. It doesn't look great. Actually, at lower resolution, 280p is but 480p is actually pretty good because it gives you the total feel of you're in an old silent film theater.
Yeah, we do have to get used to that. I mean, when you go to the 20s, the best you can do, it is going to look about 280p. Even though you can get some amazing, just total, what can we say? Oh, what's the phrase? When you go back from the original film, help me out. Is it reprint? Remaster. Thank you. Thanks, folks. Yes. You can get it sort of looking amazing in HD when you go back of the original film, but when it's in the 20s, sometimes there's only so much you can do. But this here, he's not here, but if he were, he would say it. So for Mitch, this is absolute pure Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, which is a, German expressionist horror. This is, the angles of this are not only effectively showing you a civilization completely different to ours, it is a tribute to Cabinet of Dr. Caligari in the best way. And a genius use of their low budget, I thought. I had to, as low resolution as it is, I had to show you that screen cap of it.
Yeah. One thing, the HP Lovecraft Historical Society does accept memberships, and you get benefits, discounts on merchandise. They have put several other films and sponsored several other films, including an adaptation of Cool Air. They have another one set in a 1930s style. Think King Kong.
They did Whisperer in Darkness as well. Yeah.
Yes.
I am very interested. See, I'm afraid I've got bad news. I think the chat might have been one Dr. Prepper, I'm afraid.
I did put.
This is high quality chat reference here. Fantastic.
I did put the link to the HP Lovecraft Historical Society in the private chat if you want to post
I
it.
will get. Yeah, that's a really good idea. Here you go. If you want to check them out, folks.
They have some really fun
brilliant.
merchandise. They have interesting things going on all the time. On Twitter, they're HPLHS. And right now they're running a crowdfunding to help keep the fan convention Necronomicon alive for 2024.
Great name.
They just put that one out yesterday, I believe, and it's just a GoFundMe for it. And I'm trying to think. They used to have an old bowling shirt for the Miskatonic Bowling Club, and tentacles coming out of the margarita glass, etc., etc., etc. I don't think they sell it anymore, even on Arkham Bazaar. But they have lapel pins for Miskatonic University and shirts for the Wilmarth Expedition at the Mountains of Madness, that kind of thing. It's all fun and games. And
when it leads to producing something like this, I think it's so good.
This movie is a labor of love, and they did so well.
Yeah. One thing that will give this away, and you guys will probably notice it in many of the smaller films, you look at the cast list and then you look at the crew list, and it's the same picture meme, you know. Everyone who acted in this was on the crew doing some work, and vice versa. It's like, get in here, you're going to be a sailor.
They actually got a couple of big Lovecraft fans who were Hollywood character actors in. David Mersal. He's been in a lot of things. I've seen him in several TV and movies. But like I said, it's a labor of love.
Yeah.
And they actually pulled off something that everybody said was unfilmable.
Yeah. Now, we've also got to remind it the genius choice to make it in this style. If you are not an actor, your tendency will be to overact, and that massively suits this. So for amateur actors, this makes a lot of sense. It's excellent. Think back to when we covered, I think it was 1927's The Lodger. Thank you very much. That was a Hitchcock about the Hitchcock film about Jack the Ripper. You know, think of how everything was acted in that. You know, it matches well with this exaggerated style. I also like that I don't feel they diluted the ideas in this too much. So they show this guy who is like, I love this guy. He was brilliant. He's if you
That's
read,
true.
Yeah, you read Lovecraft, he describes characters who are manic, who are deformed. And I'm not insulting this guy. He's been made up to be a very, this is a guy you probably could see in a pub, basically. But he's exaggerating it and playing up a kind of the sort of degenerated appearance that we were referencing in the earlier topic section. And he's just going through it, and he's shot at a weird angle as well. And it really matches the kind of descriptions I found in the original story. Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah. These guys are true fans. They went all out on this.
They've thrown themselves into it. TCG, how did you feel about this? It's not the standard thing we watch.
Yeah, ain't a standard thing, but I have to say I did appreciate the effort that went into making this. At points, when I saw that this was a 2005 short movie, I wondered if that was a typo. Because I wasn't too sure of it, even though I saw the old Roman numerals at the beginning, you know, the MMV. I was like, okay, yeah, 2005, and I sort of thought, no, this is they masked it. But then as I you know, sort of sat down and started focusing, I wouldn't say focusing, but as I started watching it, and I did start to look for sort of like inconsistencies. And I did notice there were a couple of bits that did look a bit green screened. But you know what? Like this was a great effort. I mean, I was more intrigued by the production of the piece rather than the actual story itself. But the fact that, you know, Murgoot said it was made by people who, you know, this was essentially like a passion project. It does show, because from you know, I haven't read the books admittedly, but from what I've learned of Lovecraft so far through the films that we've watched, and you know, and the stories and the adaptations that we've looked at so far, this did feel very sort of true to how I would imagine Lovecraft would produce a film if he was if he embraced technology for just long enough to make something like this. You know, I think you know, the fact that the Cthulhu beast, the monster, wasn't really visible. You know, it was, again, like, you know, sort of the fact that they sort of kept it shrouded in mystery was pretty cool. I did like that.
Exactly.
Yeah. It was something that I appreciated because you could tell that a lot of love and care went into making it, and yeah, that was my take.
Yeah. In terms of the style, something that can be a bit difficult or a bit bewildering for me to read is something that's common at the time, and certainly common in the 1800s literature that Lovecraft enjoys so much, is the fact that you get your story reported in an epistolic format. So the story isn't just what happens, it's someone tells you about what happened. Or in this, it's often we start off with a man telling you about his investigation into someone telling him about his discovering someone who encountered Cthulhu. And part of that is like showing you how powerful the influence of Cthulhu is.
Yeah,
but
it was
can
very
be bewildering, you know?
It's sort of it's first-hand accounts, second-hand knowledge, third-hand. It reminded me of World War Z in that regard, because if you, obviously, and I'm not talking about the film, because but the main difference of that is the actual book itself. For those who haven't read it, but by the time the book essentially tells the stories of people during the conflict, because at the time that the book was written, it's the conflict is, you know, the conflict is already over. You know, people have got over it. So it's going back and looking at the accounts of people who were there at the time, reporting and diarising on the ground at that moment in time. It had sort of the same energy as what something like this was, because it wasn't the nephew going out there and experiencing it himself. It was him essentially investigating was it his uncle or his grandfather? I can't remember. Uncle, that's it. Yeah. So, you know, he was going out there investigating continuing on from his uncle's work, but the experiences that he got were told to him through the lens of other people, and it was quite cool actually. That alone was enough for him to essentially go insane as well, which was pretty cool.
Yeah. The epistolic, it's a throwback to Bram Stoker, who used it a few times, especially in his writing Dracula, which is epistolic too. It's it's an interesting, until you get used to it, it's an odd form of literature. But once you do, it makes it feel more real if it's done right.
Yeah, it's a quirk of the time. Frankenstein is very big on it as well, in giving you the report of it. But as well as being grounded in it, it helps keep some details vague as well, so that they are left to your imagination. And one thing I really liked about it, that we'll probably have our criticism for the next film in this, but something they got in this is one of the details that I think doesn't carry through to pop culture is what exactly Cthulhu is, which is, he's not tentacly Godzilla. He's a high priest. He's got a role. He's a being of great intelligence as well. There's a great mind at that, and something really surprised me when I first read it is the boat doesn't just flee, it turns around and drives itself through Cthulhu's head, I believe.
Yes, yeah.
Just like motorboats through its head. Motorboats gained an unfortunate second meaning that I didn't think about. Move on. It just jets, shush now, family-friendly stream. It jets through Cthulhu's head, turning it into mush. And then Cthulhu just reforms. You're so hopeless in it. It completely caught me out when I first read it.
Yeah.
That'll have some relevance for the next film, but I love that they did that.
One of the quotes from Chaosium's Call of Cthulhu role-playing game, tabletop role-playing game, the Cthulhu Now supplement. What happens when your players decide to nuke Cthulhu? Well, he reforms himself 10 minutes later, and now he's radioactive and pissed off.
Now, that is one thing you don't want, is a Cthulhu that can Hulk out.
No. Oh, crikey. Yeah, so that got the flavour of it, that just, this is more than a beastie. This is a high priest who is going to waken up the true old ones and bring doom. And it's a detail that I think doesn't come through in popular culture generally.
It's just...
for the little we know of Cthulhu, the hints we get, the stuff where mostly we're just going around, we're seeing the Cthulhu cult in action. One of those very problematic elements of the stories, the savages in the swamps around. Where was it?
I like the fact that it's pointed out, this ain't no voodoo cult. This is true devil worship. And it leaves off the fact that these guys aren't black. They're Cajun. They're white. But they're still degenerate.
Yeah, Lovecraft would have definitely caught that, but I loved it. It's such an unexpected thing that the team go out there and suppress them, and it's very bloody. It's extremely bloody in the story about it. It gives you that sense of violence. I don't think we've mentioned, but this is one of those Lovecraft stories that is it's a longer one. It's full of chapters, so he gives you these little releases of tension. And one of them is that action scene where you hear about the policeman basically gunning down the cult.
Inspector LaGrasse is a hero. He's a big-time hero in this one.
I'm just going to have to...
Oh, yeah, I know exactly where you're going to track to. Then.
You've got to get on it. You've got to get...
If you want to know, Horror Show actually did a video talking briefly about MILF Manor, or more specifically AZ's reactions to MILF Manor. It's a brilliant video. I suggest you go and check it out.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. Heel versus Babyface. He has been suffering through this show. Watch his coverage and then watch my short video. Very serious, big-brained video. I'm waiting for episode 5 to be covered. I'm desperate. I need it. And I finally, I said to someone that I said to our Polish friend that since people liked it, I was inspired. I had another video in mind, and I remembered what it was now, so I can actually make it. Okay, but I will move on from that.
We should do like a live watch along of one of those episodes.
Oh gosh, should we?
Obviously, you guys in the chat would have to open up your own copy because obviously we'd get wrangled with copyright issues. But I think we should.
Hang on, I'm just going to be typing for a second. Don't worry about me. But chat, you're going to have your say on this.
Yeah. You have to get a poll up, see if they would do a live watch along of an episode. Because I mean that just watching your video a lot on it alone. I mean, it definitely fits the content of your channel. It does sound horrific. The fact that these old cougars are going in looking for a toy boy, and then a bunch of toy boys, these old toy boys are going in looking for a cougar, and it turns out these cougars happen to be their mums. It's
it's so grim.
It is a recipe for disaster, and I love it.
All right, the poll is
my
in.
mum though. You keep your hands off my mum.
Chat, you can have the say on this, whether we go rogue or do this or not. Okay.
I know I shouldn't, but I voted.
Oh, I'll check in on that in a few minutes. It's got a very spicy chat tonight. I'm loving it.
I know, right?
Okay. All right. Yeah. So, as I said, it's one of the.
Oh, here you go.
Ones.
Sorry, Marina. I think my.
What's this?
Proper horror show.
Oh, I asked for that, didn't I? Where's Marina's comment with that?
Forfeit. Well, she says it is proper horror, but you could be proper horror show for the night.
I will. I'll do it.
It's got to be better than Love Island, right?
What are you going to be, that cougar guy?
I've not watched either of them, so I couldn't possibly say. I'll ask my wife though. She watches Love Island.
Oh dear.
And I did recommend MILF Manor to her. So
oh dear, we gotta do it. So yeah, as we were saying, it's a longer Lovecraft. It's atypical. He takes you through lots of. Lovecraft does this a lot. One person is researching the story, so he'll go to different people, and each one's a chapter. So that's how he sort of brings it out. I don't know how I feel about his longer chapters, chapter-based stories versus the tighter ones, but they all have a good flavour. I think of the chapter-based ones, I do prefer Herbert West Reanimator.
Which is his least liked out of his oeuvre because he was...
Yeah.
It was
I enjoyed
demand and for cheap, and it was a rip-off of Frankenstein because Frankenstein was getting popular at that time.
I liked it though. I like that it was one of those ones that made me actually be quite scared and wince. Like some of the imagery in it was absolutely grim. So I think we are going to try and get a read along of it, but it's going to be a long one, folks. So I won't do that on a live stream because I don't think anyone could read for 80 minutes straight. It'll be a bit brutal, but that's going to come out, folks. For the sake of time, I absolutely loved this. We should make sure to move on, but should we get some closing thoughts and scores on Call of Cthulhu from 2005?
Yeah, go on then. I'll be short and snappy with my Well, did you see the other one as well? A few
one?
Lovecraft to Love Island.
God.
Shadow of the North Mouth.
This is not okay. This
and
is
then
not
TCG
okay,
was
chat.
divorced. What else have they said? The big one
Okay.
game. I do you know what? I mean, it's not what I'm typically used to, the old silent movies. But I do appreciate the fact that this was a passion project, and it did have me going as well. At the start, as I said, I did sort of have to double check to make sure that this was actually made in 2005 because it very much felt like a product of that time. So, you know, take me hat off to the people who worked on creating it. You know, very, very impressed. I'd say it's probably an 8 out of 12 burgers for me. Just, I mean, I say the score's mainly because of the fact that it's got such a nostalgia feel to it, as well as the fact that, you know, people who made it clearly did have a love for Lovecraft. But yeah, it's not something that I would typically go to, but the score's heavily leaned on their efforts that went into it. I can appreciate that, and I can respect the grind and the effort that went into it. So I wouldn't want to give it a low score because of that. No. It wasn't a bad story, but it's just not something that I'm used to. But yeah,
let me put it to you. This one goes best as part of a film night. This has got to be in a double bill.
Okay.
Like maybe you pair it with something like Reanimator or From Beyond or Necronomicon.
Maybe. Yeah.
Well, as a featurette, it's perfect. Go to the drive-in. Well, I don't know if Britain had drive-in movie theaters, but a featurette followed by the feature movie, it's almost perfect for that.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds about right, actually, because yeah, I did actually watch this second. I think if I watched this first and then went straight into Underwater, then I'd probably like it a bit more. I don't know. A standalone, good little passion project. I liked it for that. Yeah. 8. What the
I would say this is one of the other readings, chat, where we didn't, apart from the length, where we haven't done readings of Dagon or of Call of Cthulhu, because can you imagine reading the Cthulhu text?
I've done it before.
Yeah. Oh man. How about you, Murgoot? Thoughts and scores for this?
I absolutely love it. It's one of my favorite stories. At the Mountains of Madness and Dream Quest of Unknown Kadath are still my favorites, but Call of Cthulhu is brilliant as a passion project, and just seeing this on the screen for the first time, they did wonderfully. I give it 10 burgers with a side of fried calamari rings.
10 with fried calamari, yeah. Or it's high scores. I am loving how many people did the homework. I mean, it helps. It is on YouTube, which is great. So are numerous readings of it. We did link to it if you want to. If you're curious, if you want to hear the original story, highly, highly recommended. So check out. Yeah, we're seeing some good ones. Yeah, I'd echo what you said. Lovely as a passion project that gives me some affection for it. Also, it was such a good decision to do it in this way. They played it straight in the style that works for what they could do, which is a very intelligent decision. And even in that, they filled it with style. Lots of shots reminded me of what's it in English? Carnival of Souls. That's the one. Lots of the makeup effects remind me of that and just made me love it. And the final ending shot, you know, if we're being generous with it and we're saying, okay, we kind of like it because of kind of kitsch, the ending shot is just genuinely good, of the storyteller in the wheelchair being taken away and reversed into darkness. That was amazing. I loved it. Oh, so good. So good. Yeah, so for me, I think I would say you've got to pair it. I wouldn't watch it on its own. I would pair it with something, and it would be a good warm-up, I would say, rather than a closer. So pair it with something a bit more substantial, something like Color Out of Space, or any of the ones that we've said are good. and go for a more serious Lovecraft, I'd say. So Color Out of Space is a good one. But if you want something fun and schlocky like Necronomicon, which is an anthology of Lovecraft, then you could pair it with that quite nicely. I'm full of admiration for it. I think it knows what it is and it does a good job. It's a 9 burgers for me. And I'll go for the calamari rings as well. It's a difficult story to tell, and they just made so many good choices with it. So, yeah, really happy with this one. Let's move on to our second one. I told you, this is a packed episode tonight, folks. Absolutely packed. We're going to move on to something that I actually thought was going to be terrible. I really did. I thought I'll be a bit sneaky because people might not go for Call of Cthulhu. So I'll throw something that's probably going to, you know, not do as well against it. And then, oh no. I'm trying to be serious. Chat's cracking me up. Darn it. Nice. Very, very good. Very good. Underwater from 2020 turned out to be a little bit good. I wasn't expecting it, but I'm delighted. TCG, would you like to give us the Guinness summary for Underwater?
Soma meets Alien.
Yeah, that'll do it. That'll do it.
Yep. Bloody brilliant.
Yes.
As someone who's played Soma. Instant vibes, man. Instant vibes.
I was watching it, and all I could think of, I could hear your in the background every time they turned around.
Oh my god! Yeah, do you know what? I kid you not. I felt like I was getting flashbacks every time there was like some sort of water sound effect that sounded remotely similar to something from Soma. I was like, oh my god. Oh. Like, I felt like something bad was going to happen. Like, there's literally one bit, right? I'm sorry, I'm going to completely derail from here, but there's one bit when they're outside, they're traveling to like another one of the locations, and they're having to follow a set of lights. And I'm thinking, like, that literally happens in Soma. I'm like, oh god, it's like I was almost predicting, and it pretty much went exactly the same way that did. And I was like, oh man, I know this bit. This bit's not going to be great. Oh no, oh god, oh.
All right, so for people who haven't watched your run-throughs of Soma, by the way, is your Soma playlist, remind me, is that on your main channel or your live channel?
It's on my second channel, my live channel.
If you give me a link in private, I will put it up, because, folks, you've got to... Look, TCG suffered playing Soma. He is not a natural, scary game player. No, and his gameplay is hilarious.
I genuinely suffered. I'm not. You know, it's not an exaggeration. I hate horror games with a passion. Not hate them as in like I despise them, but my god, I can sit down and watch a horror movie. I can sit and watch people play horror games. I as an observer, absolutely fine. You put a control pad in my hand and say, right, play this game. Nope. I
think I've got the link here. Here we go. There is TCG's second channel. And,
I'm one subscriber from 100, by the way.
Oh, guys, we can make that happen tonight. We can make that happen. Go on, get TCG's live channel a 100th sub, and then you unlock something. So, if you're not familiar with Soma, what happens? We'll give you the quick summary of this. This is a 2020 film with an interesting writer. There's one I wasn't very familiar with, who's Adam Kozad. He hasn't done anything I was particularly impressed by, I'm going to be honest. But Brian Duffield, the other writer, this should have been the sign for me that we were going to get a good film. So he wrote a film in 2017 called The Babysitter. Okay. The Babysitter was going out on Netflix. It's got a very Fright Night feel to it. It's that sort of 80s fun horror. It was directed by McG, the guy behind Charlie's Angels, and they kept and Terminator Salvation.
In Supernatural, wasn't it?
Which
What's
one?
that?
McG, didn't he do? Let me see.
Have a look. You have a look for that. Yeah. So they kept this to the end, all right. So I would never have thought that it was a guy behind Charlie's Angels and Terminator Salvation. No. They reveal him at the end.
Behind Supernatural.
What, Brian Duffield or McG?
No, McG.
Really? Okay, I'm going to have to follow up on that in a second. That surprised me.
Okay.
So yeah, basically the Babysitter was ridiculously good fun, comedy horror that landed the jokes and landed the scares. It's absolutely amazing. I really loved it. Okay. 2017, The Babysitter, strong recommendation from me. Now, if I'd known Brian Duffield, the writer of that, had written this, I'd have been a lot more optimistic. But I thought we were going to get in this basically an Aliens ripoff, a bit of girl bossing, a lot of what the Critical Drinker calls the message. And I'm sorry to say, I went into this a bit cynical.
Same here.
And sometimes when you do that, you get proven wrong in the best way. This was a lot of fun. Now, there are similarities with Aliens, but that is not, there's nothing wrong with that. It was learning from a good franchise and a good story and telling it in its own way. It's got a very interesting feel. This is a story of deep sea drilling, a small crew who are basically the only survivors of a massive disaster. Something tears through their deep sea rig, and they've got to get out. Now, this is what makes it feel like a computer game. It's just their mission so clearly from the start is we've got to get out, and they have one mission, and it's all they do, and they point out where they've got to go on a map. And it just feels so sequences in it feel like quick time events, like levels you've played. And they're just so focused on the goal that you really do just think they're progressing through levels like a computer game.
Yeah.
This is not a criticism.
No.
It just made it interesting.
Oh, I was going through it and I was expecting similar. I was expecting the girl boss. I was expecting a message rammed down your throat. And then I started having flashbacks to 1989, where all the deep sea sci-fi horror adventures came out. The Abyss, Deep Star 6, Leviathan, The Rift. And it felt like I was in 1989, summer of 1989 all over again. Just watching deep sea adventure.
Yeah.
I was, you know, like you, Horace, I was ready to slate this film.
Yeah. What
then,
you know, it had Kristen Stewart. You see her, and you know, you think, she's far too young for this role. You know, if I'm going to criticize the film, yes, she is too young for the role she has. Most people are, you know, chief technical officer.
I don't know.
She seems a bit too young to me. A lot of them feel just a bit too young, but you can shrug that off because that's basically casting. It's rare you get a film where people are about the right age that they should be. So it's a minor gripe. This is how we're introduced to her. She's looking schlubby. She's, you know, she's very butch presented. You know, that is not a criticism coming from me. If you stuck around this channel, you know I do not have a problem with this. She's doing something very unattractive. Like they show her pushing her gums out like it was MILF Manor with that toothbrush, and you're wondering what's going on here. Like I thought, oh, are we getting the message big style? This is just grounding you in the film. Because after the disaster, she's then immediately thrown into kind of a different mode. So this sort of deliberately schlubby, deliberately messy thing gets dropped after the disaster, which happens about 2 minutes in. And then you're followed up with this shot that Susan might not even have. Suddenly she's all athletic, and they go for this quite, how can I say, they shoot her in this very attractive, very athletic way. And you kind of understand she is someone who has the physical prowess for what she's going to do.
Yeah, that race to that, it wasn't a pod they were in, was it? It was...
It was a section they could just section off with a blast door.
That
yeah
bit when she's pegging it to there, like bloody, like really. Oh, I loved it. I loved it.
Yeah, and suddenly, like, this sight of her being schlubby just actually helps accentuate she's athletic. They are going to put her through the paces in this film. They are going to exhaust her and work her, and this helps ground that. And so I was like, oh, I like this. And it made me think of Ripley in the first Alien in the best way, where, she was in a way that was, you know, people grumble about it. She was shown in a skimpies, but it's not a sexualized thing. So this was, and just so much of the film looks gorgeous like this. And there was a moment that won me round, and this might sound like a really silly thing, but it was when they'd gone through the blast door, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do this guy dirty here. This is just the screen cap I got. But everyone looks kind of awkward, but she's got through the blast door and she just panics and says, I don't have my key card. And I loved that so much.
I loved this guy for me was a bit Captain Exposition, wasn't he, in this moment?
He was a bit, yeah.
Also,
hey, Bilbo. See you in the chat there. Good to see you. Oh, come on. You can't break out the stick for us. Come on.
I think that was a self bonk.
Oh,
oh God, Fez.
Well, funny you should say that, Fez. He does refer to her being flat chested at some point during the film. Does Captain Exposition?
Yeah. So it's just a little moment. Like if I was going to grumble, I was almost tempted to say, like, they throw us into the big disaster about 2 minutes in, if that, and then it's we see in this race to get to a section they can seal off. There's two colleagues waiting on who just get murked, and I was wondering, like, would it have been better if we'd have had you'd usually have about 10-15 minutes of build up before that, and I was like, do we need that? Do we not?
I didn't think we did.
Yeah. I ended up thinking it was lean. It did the job. Didn't waste any time.
One autistic thing about it, though, leaks from high pressure situations. I've got friends who are in the Navy. Leaks underwater are so high pressure, especially at that depth, that a pinhole leak will basically form a water saw and cut you in half. You start hearing a leak, they have broomsticks laying around where you probe in front of you, and if it gets sawed off, you know where the leak is.
Wow. I mean, I will say, like, I mean, it didn't bother me too much, but I mean, given that they're in the Mariana Trench, like, the water I felt like would have been pressing through a little bit quicker and a little bit, you know, more intense than it would have. But that, I didn't know that. That's mad.
Yeah.
I feel I should point out, Marine has reminded me of the poll. We've been spared. Chat has standards.
Well, all of a sudden,
57% are with Oswald Spengler. No milfs.
Well, hang on. I thought we didn't like democracy either.
Nice. Yeah. So I was saying little details. I did think they were playing a bit fast and loose with the old whether everyone would have been immediately wiped out or not, but we might have to forgive that just so the film can happen.
Yeah. Sorry, Chloe, I'm going to have to insist that you do the poll again until they get the right answer.
No.
Oh, good. European style. Good. That is how we like it.
In fact, just do a poll with only one answer. No, you can't do that. But yeah, just do it with one answer.
Proper is not Nicola Sturgeon calling. phone every time she leaves.
I was thinking more Ursula von der Leyen or whatever her name is.
MILF mandate.
I love that. Like MILF mandate.
Oh dear.
Come on, chat.
All right. Yeah, so little details like this, like she doesn't have the key card. Of course she doesn't have a key card. She was hanging around in the bathroom. She'd just gone up in the middle of the night to or just got up to brush her teeth and have a tinkle. Of course she doesn't have it with her. I loved it. I just loved it. She's so
Nice
glamorous. It's
detail.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
This was starting to win me over. You know?
And yeah, and I'll also say, just sort of add to that as well, the urgency, the panic in her as well, in when they're trying to get the door shut. It sort of, for me, immediately sort of erased any, because again, like I was ready to crap on this film and call her a Mary Sue and all this stuff. Like I was almost half expecting her to be like, "Don't worry, I'm a technical engineer. I can just open this up and there we go, shut the doors, ha ha ha." But she was like, "Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god." I'm like, yes, because that is the right way to respond in that sort of intense, pressure filled situation. Lovely.
Yeah, it's
lovely.
Yeah. She didn't get the best reputation because of Twilight, but people forget Kristen Stewart can act. It's not going to be a thing that we cover on this channel, but there's a movie called The Clouds of Silmaria with Kristen Stewart in, and she's a supporting role in it. Also, channel favorite Chloe Grace Moretz is in it, actually getting to act, which is quite nice. We will forgive her for Shadow in the Clouds for what she did in The Clouds of Silmaria. Really good film. And it's nice to see Kristen Stewart getting to act and getting some good material. Also, in terms of surprises, of course, guys, full spoilers for this film, full spoilers. Spoilers for Underwater 2020, big spoilers, okay? We've said the thing. Again, I worried we were going to get the girl boss situation. No. The big problem with the girl bossing is that they make everyone else an absolute idiot so that she looks amazing. They didn't do that.
No.
It was great. I kind of thought this guy here would just be... I thought he had the odd plot armor because, you know, it's a very diverse cast as you get from studios. And they nerfed him.
I just want to say,
in the most brutal way. Poor guy.
Sorry, I just want to sort of interject there, like, and you sort of mentioned it being a diverse cast. Again, like even that made sense based on the environment that they were in. You know,
it's an international operation.
Yeah,
of course.
It'd be exactly. It'd be no different than like being on the International Space Station. You're going to get people from different backgrounds on there. So, you know, in the context, even that made sense. It wasn't something that felt forced like you get in other films. No,
it was there, but it's not forced. And if you're thinking about the size, like this is a mega corporation.
Exactly, yeah.
This isn't a sort of small focused thing. It's what you're more likely to get. So, but if you had any concerns that, you know, this was tokenizing casting, it's like this guy gets murked.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely savage.
One thing about this film was it was actually made in 2017 and shelved until 2020. Oh, really? It's so the Supergirl boss still hadn't hit yet.
Yeah, I think the trouble is the current wave is I'd been primed to expect a bit of garbage, and after this, I just thought, no, I think what I'm getting here is just an actual film. My goodness. So if you're wondering, why have I chosen the second unflattering angle of this poor guy? I do not have a vendetta against this actor. He's had a hard enough time with that film, the poor guy. They showed us just a little bit after priming that the group are going to have to go on a dangerous quest. They're going to have to get on the the deep sea diving suits. They're going to have to go along the ocean floor. It's dangerous. Now, this is basic storytelling, but don't you hate it when people say it's 1,000,000 to 1 chance, but it just might work? They show this. They say this equipment is not suitable for what we're going to do, but we have no other choice. We're going to have to do it. And so this poor guy, you get one shot and you see that he's looking at a little crack in the glass. And it's like, is that a crack or not? Is that unsure? And then as I go down, that crack makes a difference and murks him. Yeah. And it's just sort of, oof. And it was at that point, I thought, this film knows what it's doing.
Yeah, yeah.
One of the things I liked was when they were going through all the corridors and through the collapsed areas. They're like, this one's collapsed. I think I found a hole. It's a bit small. And Kristen Stewart says, I'm the smallest. I'll go first. No, you're needed for some of the things. I'm the smallest. And she goes through, which is smart to make sure that if she can get through, maybe somebody else can, or she can figure out a way to get it open completely.
It's also telling the audience as well that she's willing to put herself, not put herself, but put the needs of others ahead of the needs of herself, if that makes sense. Because she's essentially putting herself in harm's way.
Yeah,
to ensure the survival or to ensure the safety of the other crew. Because you're absolutely right
about it as well. Because remember that one of the first things we see her do is she very reluctantly does close the door on her colleagues, but we're seeing she makes an intelligent but tough decision, and then later when she gets the chances, she does take it on herself. Yeah, which will help build us up for the end. It's almost like this film has good characterization.
It certainly does.
And I've just got this here. I love the design of this.
Do you know what? I really did as well.
It's so gorgeous.
Although, I mean, are the suits like different sizes? I'm assuming they're different sizes.
They're fitted to each person, is what they say. Go get your suit. Go get your suit.
Yeah.
Because you notice she's a lot shorter than the captain and the security guy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a nice. I hear a cat and I welcome that cat.
It's not my cat. Murgoot.
That's Missy.
Yeah.
Our tiny Siamese.
Oh.
She's a seal point and she's quite obnoxious.
No, we love her. Hello, Missy, for a stream debut. I don't think we've heard her before. I don't know if we're going to get Gatsby or not. Yeah, so we're saying this is just a gorgeous looking film. We also talked about some of the nice details in it. We love a nice little detail, a bit of foreshadowing. Now, I don't know exactly what the justification for this being in the chamber where they get their suits on. Jessica Henwick, who you probably know from quite a few Disney projects. She was in Iron Fist. She was in Game of Thrones as well. She probably wouldn't like to be reminded of that. She's great in this. Something we were talking about backstage before we kick this off is how you might think at the start that you're getting just the stock characters. Here's Kristen Stewart. She's the girl boss. Here's TJ Miller. He's the schlubby comedy guy.
Although, to be fair, he was.
Well, but everyone got that extra layer of detail. Like, he was a scared guy, and you saw that he had something else going on. He had connections he cared about. He did his jokes, but it wasn't the only thing. And
that's fair.
Yeah, Jess Henwick, Murgoot, you were saying this about how you thought, was she just going to be terrified and kind of useless? Just a wooby the whole film.
Yeah, she was terrified, but she did her job.
Yeah, Prepper, exactly right, exactly right. Yeah.
She went past her fear. She did her job all the while freaking out, but she did it. It just shows the competence of the crew. They wrote that in.
She acclimatized to it. That's just a little bit of Jessica Henwick there. She was so good in this scene.
Yeah.
Oh, love it.
Back to the suits. The other autistic
yes.
point I had about the movie, I wish they would have shown the detail of them taking a second look, going over each other's suits and making sure everything's latched and no leaks, that kind of thing. Because every scuba diver does it, every hard diver does it. Anybody going into hazmat suits has somebody check their seals for them.
Mm.
And I wish they would have done that. That would have made that whole scene a lot better.
I have a question about the suits, actually, and I don't know if anybody can answer this, but where were they putting the helmets when they weren't wearing them?
They were, a couple of them sat them down, some of them clipped them to their belt. If you
okay, cool.
Mm.
I didn't. That's why I was asking, because I thought, oh no, please don't be a continuity error, because that's going to be really annoying.
Oh, you know what? I was thinking there was something about the suits. Like, it's kind of a standard film trope that they really hate having the actors have anything that covers their faces. So they'll have them taking helmets off constantly. Think of your Marvel movies. Your comic books don't care as much about your superheroes having a mask on. Films hate it, so they're constantly taking those masks on and off. If you watch a lovely little German science fiction series called Dark, that I'm a tiny bit obsessed by at the moment, they have these, what would you call, nuclear radiation protection suits, the big yellow ones. What are they called? Hazmat suits.
The NBC Tyvek suits.
Yeah, thank you. But they've adapted them so the helmet section is like 2 foot taller than it should be. And that's so you can constantly see the actor's face. And it looks a bit, I love the show. It does look a bit silly, and I know why they did it. So I was prepared to grumble here because the actors are constantly taking their helmets off.
They did,
and then
the scrubbers.
Yeah, they give a reason.
Yeah.
The scrubbers. The oxygen scrubbers, I should say. We're not talking about Jessica Henwick and Kristen Stewart. Ooh-wee. Something's wrong with this stream we're talking about. It's the MILFs. The MILFs have done this to us.
Ugh.
All right. Oh, and other details. Now, I didn't catch this. Waifu caught this. But in that area that looked so much like it was taken from Soma, where they have to first run out on the sea, they've built a tension up. Mm-hmm. You get a quick look up at the building they're entering. And you see a deep one there. Look at that.
Yes. Man. Yeah, I saw that. I caught that. I did catch that, but there was so much that I wasn't spotting because, it is quite dark in places, like visually, and I mean, I like that.
Yeah,
well,
man, I just
because they're on the bottom of the trench.
It just, well, exactly. I mean, again, like I just going through this film was giving me flashbacks to Soma. And there was so much from like the sound effects to the scenery to the flashing lights to the banging of the monsters trying to get in or just banging around. It just reminded me so much of that game.
Yeah.
Sorry,
70 suit. If you're not seeing it, look up. So under this light on the right, so top light right. If you go down from there, there's a humanoid figure. Hopefully you can see that. It's humanoid, not human. So it's in the top right part and it's just a blurry shadow outline. It's The Haunting of Hill House. We're trained. We can spot these things a mile away. They can't slip any hidden figures past us anymore.
I learned my lesson after that film, after that TV series.
Yeah. God.
I missed them all.
This was a tense little sequence. I had such a good time with it. I was just in. I was just in and enjoying it.
I'm not joking. I might actually watch this again after the stream.
Yeah, it doesn't mess around. It's a quick little film. It's 93 minutes. There's this sequence here where you have the. So I chose this because I'd read that the final boss was Cthulhu in it. And I was like, oh, okay, they're going to bungle it. I'll put this in for contrast. Then it was amazing. We have still got this sort of 2020s contrasting lights thing. We saw this lighting scheme. It's very reminiscent of giallo films that we covered, the 70s Italian horror. I'm very happy to see it back. We've seen this in the Candyman sequel. Do not watch it. It's terrible. Oh, not Malevolent.
Blue is good. Red is bad.
Fear Street. You know, we've seen this a lot. We love it. I love this scheme. This scene where they have to go through a whole a whole group of sleeping old ones after.
Well, before that, when they were at the midpoint station, and Kristen Stewart had to repair her armor.
Oh,
dive armor, and she took the breastplate off of one of the hazard rigs, the yellow breastplate, and she also got the emergency canister gun. She made sure she grabbed the tools she needed to survive. They paid detail to it. It's okay, I need this, go to the next box. Oh, I'm taking that and the reload. Good.
And there was also a little bit of character development in that, about a character. You know, we got a little hint dropped, and then we got some further. It was just nice. I won't spoil it because it's not really necessary, but that was
background on the captain.
Yeah, the captain, by the way, played by Vincent Cassel, actor I really like. If we ever cover some Irreversible, he's amazing for it. You probably know him from Len, but he worked with Cronenberg as well. But he's very good in Irreversible, which we may cover, but it's a bit intense. So I don't know how I feel about setting that as homework for people. Anyway, this is a great tense scene. It's so good. And it's that clever storytelling thing. They showed us how much trouble one single deep one was.
Yeah.
And then we have this whole swarm of them they have to get through. Oh.
Sleeping in the dark.
Establishing the threat, building the logic. I thought that was our Cthulhu, right? I thought that was done. They finally get in and know. I'm going to give you the one of the big reveals. It's not the clearest picture because you know my policy. If there's a sort of really impressive effect shot, I want you to feel the full glory of it in the context of the film. So I don't usually show the biggest reveal shot, but I will show you it. I'll show you a little bit of it here. I don't know if I'm getting Gatsby joining me there. We'll see. I saw the door get one. So we do see a larger creature. So the deep ones, they are slightly larger than humans. And that just sets you in the scale of how big this Cthulhu is. So when you see it, my goodness, it is impressive.
Oh, yeah. They did a brilliant job of making him truly alien, too.
And like Call of Cthulhu, they don't show too much.
Yeah, I like that. There is there's a level of obscurity, which I respected. It wasn't just let's shine a light on him and see him in his full glory, because that's not what Lovecraft beasts are about. You know, you're not supposed to get the whole picture. There's a shroud of mystery and stuff like that. And I'm pleased that they continue to respect that.
Yeah, it's effective. Now, Murgoot, now we should also say Cthulhu is not named in this. No one points out and says, hey, it's that guy Cthulhu. No one says that because obviously. Why would anyone know that? The director confirmed later that this was Cthulhu, But Murgoot, we were talking backstage, and you know more about the lore than any of us here. So you had a quibble.
My thought was this was Father Dagon, the father and god of the Deep Ones, who in turn worships Cthulhu. He's basically the god king of the Deep Ones because the size is about right. Cthulhu, in the story, Call of Cthulhu is referred to as the mountain that walks or stumbles. This guy's big, but he's not a mountain. And I thought it was Dagon at first. And then you're right, the director's note said Cthulhu. So I'll take him at his word. But
the director might be confused.
I was going to say, do you think he was mixing up the two?
No, not really.
Because I mean, you know, like, was it Paul Verhoeven?
Yeah.
Oh, this is fascism. No, it's not.
I would not be. How can I say? The director did a great job, you know, but I wouldn't put it past a director to sort of go on the meme value and just say, "Look, I'm not adapting Call of Cthulhu. I can just be inspired by what I kind of know about him, and then not get it exactly right, you know."
Yeah, I mean, I'll admit, because again, I in terms of like Lovecraft background knowledge and all that, I'm probably the least educated on the subject matter. But from what I've learned throughout doing these films and these reviews and these discussions is that this Cthulhu didn't exactly ring true to what Cthulhu actually is described as being in Lovecraft lore. And so I sort of came to the conclusion that either they weren't trying to do Cthulhu, or they'd got the lore mixed up with somebody, with perhaps one of his other creatures, or they just completely butchered it like they did with Zilla, as is now officially known, formerly Godzilla 97. You know, just completely messed it up. But even then, like, it doesn't really take anything away from the movie. I think there's it's still a threatening beast, menacing. Oh mate, those older ones, but the way they shoot out of its skin, like those spiders that carry babies under their skin, fudge, man, that was freaking me out.
Kind of like Cloverfield, like that logic.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, it's good. Now I'm with you on this. This is not the purest Cthulhu. Is it directly against Cthulhu? Like, does he at any point just sit and knit and do anything Cthulhu absolutely wouldn't? Not really.
No.
So I think it is more the pop culture image as and this is still impressive, you know. I did wonder a little bit.
Father Dagon, either way, they're both absolutely terrifying. By the way, Chad, if you haven't, read Lovecraft's Dagon.
Yes.
It's from 1917, 1919. It's one of his first in the mythos, and it's short. It's very short, but it's very, very good.
Yeah, really good entry point, but also don't watch the film Dagon. Cannot recommend.
Dagon is basically Shadow over Innsmouth and not Dagon.
Yes. It do be like that sometimes.
Was it written and directed by Paul Verhoeven?
No, it was written and directed by Stuart Gordon.
This is fascism. No, it's libertarianism.
Oh man, yeah. Now, speaking of maybe some ideological repurposing, I don't know if there's much mileage in this, but I thought I would raise it. Now, the premise of this is that the TN Mining Corporation, I thought maybe that was like relevant to Titan, TN, you know. It's an interesting name. I'm not sure I understood why they called it TN. Maybe it's meant to have a slightly sort of Chinese feel to it. I don't know.
Yeah, it's Let me see.
I'm possibly overthinking it. It could be Chinese. It could be Titan. Why they're going for that, I'm not sure. So it's their deep mining, the delving too greedily and too deep, as does happen sometimes, I'm told, that awakens Cthulhu. So there's a bit of an environmental message here, which I wondered, is that slightly anti-Cthulhu? Like, I don't feel Cthulhu will destroy your mining station because you haven't respected Mother Nature. Cthulhu will destroy your mining civilization because it's on the way to him waking up the.
I mean,
if it is Chinese, Tian means heaven.
I mean, you could sort of take it from the philosophical or the the environmental argument that don't drill into the too deep because Mother Nature will take back. Or you could look at it from the perspective of you're having a nice sleep, you've been left undisturbed for thousands of years, and all of a sudden you get a massive drill into your backside. You're gonna be pissed, especially if you're waking up all groggy and you think, well, what's that doing? It no, right.
Don't you hate it when
get rid of it? Exactly. Don't you hate it when a massive old drill?
Those drillers.
I mean, Jesus. I mean, yeah. I was, you expect some sort of message in a film these days. Is it the worst message to have in a film? Probably not.
I would be sympathetic to someone who said this is hijacking Cthulhu for environmentalist messaging. But I would also be sympathetic to someone who said Lovecraft has written quite a few stories where someone is going where they shouldn't and discover something they shouldn't and are brought under because of that. So again, I can't be mad at this film.
No.
I really like this film. Yeah.
And it's again, bear in mind, the location is the Mariana Trench. Like nobody has, to my knowledge, as well. I mean, there's definitely no like deep sea stations down there that have people milling about.
There was several super subs that have gone down to the bottom.
Yeah, but nothing.
Cameron went down to the high point of the bottom of the Mariana Trench. Only unmanned subs have gone down into the Challenger deep, where it's just really, really deep. But James Cameron, well, as much of an obsessive jerk as he can be, he's obsessive to the point where he puts his money where his mouth is and goes and does it.
did he? No. I'm assuming he didn't do that for Titanic, or was that?
No.
He did. This was just.
He dove to the Titanic for the Titanic.
Yeah.
Did Marianas Trench on his own after, with his crew after doing the Abyss.
Right. Okay. I only learned today, or remembered, that the Titanic was found in 1985.
Ooh.
Yeah.
It was found, and then it was explored later on by Cameron.
Yeah.
He helped pay for it.
That's right, yeah.
By the way, chat, if you're interested, there is a rather good podcast series called Blockbusters. And the second series is about James Cameron and covers it in quite some detail. With some reenactments. It's really good stuff. Friend of the channel, Lambda, put me onto it, and it's a really good listen.
Nice.
Quick chill for a fairly big podcast. Well, we are over 2 hours. We're at 2.25 hours, and we're mindful of Super Nanny here. We're in her good books after last week, and we want to stay in them. And also, I don't want to spoil more. If you've seen this, hopefully you liked it. But I don't want to say more than we have to. I think I wanted to cover the Cthulhu element because the whole point of this stream was who did Cthulhu better. And I don't want to spoil this movie for you. I really liked it. Sorry, TCG, you were saying something.
It's gone now. It's gone now. Oh no, that's what it was. Yeah, no, I completely agree. Do you know what? I'd probably say the less said about this film here, the better. Go and check it out for yourselves if you haven't seen it already. Yeah, I can't understate how surprised I was as to how good at least I thought this movie was, because I was expecting it to be, and I'll tell you why. Partly because of the fact that the little passion project from the other people, because they went all the way back and did like the old traditional sort of film producing style, blah blah blah. I'm tired. I felt like it was, we're looking at a juxtaposition of two styles here, and this old style is going to be beautiful, blah blah blah, and then this is just going to look modern and yuck and horrible. And actually, with regards to both of them, I felt like these were both beautiful in the way that they were presented, and the story, you sort of hit the nail on the head. It's very sort of like A to B to C to D. It's very sort of like, it's almost like levels in a video game. And it just really, really worked. And especially, and again, I played Soma. I could relate to I could relate to it, because I had to travel from place to place to place, crapping myself repeatedly. Yeah, I felt it, man. I felt it, and I was very invested in the characters, and I hadn't felt like that in a movie like this, for especially a modern movie, where perhaps some of the messaging and stuff like that is very much in your face, and things feel very tokenized, and it almost feels like offensive to the intellect of the person watching. This film didn't do any of that. It respected its audience. It respected the cast. It just hit the nail in every area. Of course, there's minor quibbles and stuff like that. I mean, the ending was, you could look at it either way. I personally liked it, but I know there was one person who, I think it was Jay, who didn't care too much for it. I can see why. But yeah, trust me, guys, if you haven't seen this, please do report back next week, or report back tomorrow on my live stream when we do the Friday night community quiz, and you can let me know what you thought of it. And I'll get Murgoot and Proper Horror Show to remind me, and I'll put up a little quick poll.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, go for that. I can see why someone would criticize the ending, and I'll keep it very spoiler free. One of the big emotional things in the end does pivot on a choice that is a thing that is largely external to the characters, and it could have just not been that way. It's not coming from character choice as much as an imposed situation, an imposed, let's say, insufficiency. Hopefully people can work out what I mean by that. I could accept that as criticism, but ultimately I don't think it... every story, the characters have to respond to the situation they're in, and I don't feel it was a contrivance. Especially when similar restrictions and lacks have driven the entire story, things not working. I hope you can understand me there, chat. Basically, the ending being impacted by something not working should not be a surprise in a station that has been destroyed and has been failing throughout the film. I hope you get me with that.
For those of you guys in the States, it is Underwater is available on Hulu for right now. So,
yeah, I'm just trying to ask here, because Marina has prompted me about a film, and I think she did mention one a while ago that I was interested in, and I've forgotten to note it down. So I'm going to say, Marina, tell me the film, and it's going in chat. Okay,
I'm just double checking, but the NREAB says that there's an alternate ending of this film on YouTube.
Interesting. I have not looked into that.
I'm going to do some deep diving into it.
You go for that. 70 Sue, don't worry. If you have not been spoiled, good. I do not want to spoil people on this film. Murgoot, did you have anything else you wanted to say on this? We should probably move into scores and closing thoughts.
I think we've covered just about everything. I guess I'll take first point. I really enjoyed it. It was a lot better than I was expecting. I went into it cold. I didn't read wiki or anything.
Good.
I knew that there was going to be Cthulhu at the end. People had talked about that for a while. But watching it, I was expecting a typical 2020 Mary Sue movie, and this was not it. Like I said, it made me feel like 1989, the year of the submarine horror flick.
Yeah.
And it was good. It was better than almost all of them except for The Abyss and Leviathan. Watch Leviathan, Sam Winston, hint, hint.
So, yeah, I mean, I hadn't heard of it, so that's going on the list. We'll have to do it.
It's, yeah, okay. Don't want to offend YouTube. Yeah, underwater alternate ending. Okay, cool.
I think I'm probably not going to cover that now, but I will have a watch of the alternate ending later. That's interesting.
I give it 8.5 burgers and a octopus, calamari, and pickled herring side platter. So, TCG.
I loved it. I felt connected to it because of my experience on Soma. Honestly, it's like PTSD these. Yeah, I again, I don't want to give too much away because I really want people to go and watch this. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I'm just gonna keep it short and sweet. Decent story, decent characters. The story doesn't trail off. It remains on point throughout, I feel. Minor quibbles, of course, you can have those. So it's not a perfect film. But I'm going to give it a good score. I'm going to give it 10.5 burgers. We're throwing some cheese because I think his name's TJ Miller in there. We're going to throw in some ketchup because of, again, TJ Miller. And I'm also going to completely degenerate this burger, and I'm going to throw in a bunch of squid in there as well.
Bet you'll put pineapple on it next.
I'm not that sick in the head.
10.5. Yeah, I agree with all that. Again, TJ Miller's character could have been so annoying, and they just restrained it. I love it. Yeah, lots to echo there. I feel my explanation for this is probably that the studio has certain requirements, and they said, you know, there's certain impacts that the studio have on how a film looks and how it's cast, and it's like, but it didn't touch the writing, and everyone they cast did a great job. I particularly liked Vincent Cassel. I thought Kristen Stewart did a really good job. Jessica Henwick, I thought this was about the best I've seen her. I thought she was okay, but this she got a chance to shine. I really enjoyed that. And I don't want it to sound cynical. I love how quick it was. It wasn't messing any around. Like, it would just be kind of ridiculous if they're at the risk of being crushed to death by the pressure of the ocean and a weird thing attacking them, and they said, hold on, I've got to go and do a side quest. So it makes sense that they're just so focused on it. It's what you would do. It is what you would do, and I loved it. It felt so you know, appropriate to how Kristen Stewart spends most of the movie, stripped down, appropriately so. And we can all enjoy that. I'm talking about the plot, of course. This is a high-minded family show.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the Lovecraftian angle may not be the most authentic, but it did not spit in the face of Lovecraft, which is a big win in 2020. This was a great surprise for me. Massive surprise. I was, as I told you, I threw this in to make Call of Cthulhu look better. And to find a film that was a surprise gem, I am delighted. I would watch this again. I highly recommend everyone watch this. It's a beauty. It looks gorgeous. Strong cast, efficient writing, great movements. It feels different to most other stuff we've seen. Great little watch. It's not going deep on emotions. It's not going deep on themes, but it tells the story really well. This is a strong 10 for me. A very strong 10. A little bit of cheese, yeah, for TJ Miller, and the exact right amount of ketchup. And it's not too big a burger either. It's exactly the right size burger, you know, so you don't sort of feel awkward trying to get. Sometimes the burgers are so big you feel awkward trying to bite them.
It's a baby bear burger.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, terrible, terrible. I can understand the 11 coming in. Yeah, absolutely. Strong film. Very strong film.
Yeah. Are you familiar with the YouTube channel Filmento?
Oh, yeah, that rings a bell.
They did a review of it, and the thumbnail failure, and the title is Underwater: How to Fail at Alien Anatomy of Failure. But then I want to but I want to contrast it with a top comment from the alternate ending video on YouTube. This movie was great. No ball-esque cliche dialogue, just straight and simple survival mode from start to finish. No dragged on moments, plenty of suspense and drawn out action sequences. Definitely Stewart's best performance to date, and the rest of the cast play their role well. Yeah, spot on. I don't think this film was trying to be an Alien ripoff.
No, no.
I think it was more trying to be a Soma ripoff, if anything. But I can see the comparisons.
We have a 12 burger score here.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I could see it. I can see how someone you'd happily show it to someone else, and if someone said, "Do you want to watch it?" you'd happily sit down and watch it again. This isn't a 3.5 hour commitment.
No.
This tells the exact length of story it needs to tell, with characters you enjoy watching. Yeah,
I think
I can see it.
If you can give it 12, give it 12. Unfortunately, I think I can't. Oh, damn it! Which film did I reserve the 12 for? I can't remember. I'd have to go back. And it's 96 episodes.
Yeah, for me, the 12 is I want some big brain think, and I probably want to cry at some point, and then
Sweet
I give it
shot
12.
person.
Yeah. I know. Well, that's only 13 out of 12 film, you know. I would say, Marina, Holy. Oh, was it? Holy reminded me it's Pet Cemetery. I will cover that in March. I might put that mid-March. We're going to have a busy March, but it's okay because I think the streams are going to be quite specific. You know, they might not be for everyone. So we'll have a couple of very different ones in there to balance out. So we'll do Pet Cemetery, and we'll do the one John Gorris talked about, which was Bloody Pit of Horror, which sounds amazing.
Yeah.
We're going to have a very unusual March, aren't we?
It's going to be like the old days, isn't it? When we didn't really have a set theme.
Just random lists.
Yeah, let's do that one. Yeah, go on then.
Yeah. Oh, that what a callback! What a callback! Yeah. All right. Well, fantastic, folks. Let's see if you are watching on the replay again. Super thanks are open if you want to test your super thanks works. It's much appreciated. It helps pay for my, as I mentioned at the start of the stream, quite excessive book purchasing of late, but it's all going to inform better streams because I love coming to this with some extra research. it is difficult getting research on the more modern films. I've got to say, that's why sometimes I go back to the 80s and 70s a lot more. There's just a lot more we know about them. You know, directors can talk a lot more candidly. Oh, let's see. Noob question. Oh, yeah, you can just say Chloe. People say my name a lot. That's absolutely fine. So you can, or proper. Some people say proper or PH. It's fine. That's fine. And
boom.
Marina, thank you so much. That is, as if you saw the pile of books I've got. Just today, I got Monsters from the Id arrive from America, and I have Dan's Macabre from Stephen King, and I've got Clive Barker's A to Z of Horror arrived today. All the books are flooding in, so I really appreciate it, because I overspent a tiny bit this month on my research. It's all for a good cause, so I really appreciate it. Thank you for the super sticker. I can see it in the chat. It's a she-bear doing karate. That's a fantastic one.
Hong Kong Phooey.
Hong Kong Phooey, is it? All right. Oh, much appreciated. Thank you, Marina. Yep. So we'll get Pet Cemetery for you, and we'll get Bloody Pit of Horror for John in March. But I think that's everything. It was such a. This was just a delight. We got 2 great films.
This was brilliant.
Yeah. What a treat. What an absolute treat. All right. Well, we've just crossed over the 2.5 hour mark. So I should, we'll try and stay on Super Nanny's great side. I hope it's been a lovely stream. I've seen it nice and lively in chat. That's brilliant. Sorry? Shilling. Oh, we'll do the shills, right. I'm working on some big stuff, so I don't have a lot coming out, but I would highly recommend you check out my MILF Manor video, which is a serious work of insight. I am going to be filming a bunch of stuff this weekend, so I'll have some more new stuff for you, which I think you should like. But I know one man who's been very active, and we'll have something fantastic to shill. TCG.
Yes. Talking about ways that you can support channels, if you hop on over to that Crime Guys stream channel, which is, of course, it's my channel. One of the ways you can support us is by becoming a channel member. One of the perks of becoming a channel member is you get early access to the audio version of cases that I cover before it goes out to the wider audience. The one that I am covering next is available now. So if you wanted to join, it's only $1.99 a month, and you can peep that now. The video itself will probably be Monday now, just because I've got a busy weekend ahead of me. But what we do have tomorrow is, and it's a week early because again things, but it's the Friday night community quiz. So we'll be joined by Proper Horror Show and Murgoot over there tomorrow. And we'll also have a couple of guests as well. We'll have Disturbin returning for another crack at the quiz, and another chap as well, which will be the first time that he'll be appearing, is a person called Just Interrogations. As you can probably imagine, he just does interrogations. Very, very good channel. Do check it out. And of course, co-hosting will be Denzil. So 9 o'clock UK time tomorrow evening. I hope to see as many of you there as you've been here, because you get to try and steal these guys' thunder, and you get questions you can answer as well.
Yeah, it's good fun, folks. Pop along tomorrow. Yeah. It's gonna be a good laugh.
Awesome stuff.
Yeah, so all the links to TCG are in the chat, and the links to Murgoot's channel as well. Murgoot, if you want to just tell people a little about yourself, hopefully people know you by now.
Yeah, it's just at Murgoot on Twitter. I'm a curmudgeonly bastard. Do humor, memes, current events, mocking politicians, mocking anybody who gets it up, and the occasional bit of serious news that I feel is worth watching. So, What's our homework for next week?
Oh yeah,
I'm glad you asked. I'm glad you asked. That's a great question. Next week, we've done our Lovecraft thing. I was thinking, do I do a bonus? I may do a bonus one. We'll see how it goes. But the thing I'm definitely doing next week is going a bit off reservation. I was told that a film called The Menu is very, very good. So it's a recent one. I don't know what is going on with me covering recent movies. It's weird. Anyway, that's what I'm going to do. The Menu. It seems divisive. People either absolutely love it or absolutely hated it. So I'm very intrigued going into it. So if you want to be able to watch that film and enjoy it unspoiled, get your hands on The Menu with Anya Taylor-Joy of The Witch, if I recall. So that's going to be a laugh. That is your horror homework. The Menu 2023. Shockingly recent. But that is everything. So massive thanks to panel members, Murgoot and TCG.
Great to be here. Thank you.
Pleasure as always.
Yes. Unfortunately, Harry from Lotus Eaters could not be here. He did not have time for all the homework, so he couldn't make it, unfortunately. We will have him back soon. And thank you, chat. I've really enjoyed your contributions. You cracked me up. The MILF jokes have been ridiculous. The HP MILFcraft was awful. Should be illegal, but well done.
I'll tell you what, the whole MILF Manor meme here is so much better than the pizza frigging meme I've managed to foster in my own community.
I'll teach you. All right. Well,
it's going to get a lot. Trust me, it's going to get a lot worse tomorrow. You'll see.
Oh, I will. I will. All right, folks. Thanks again. I will see you tomorrow on That Crime Guys channel for the evening quiz. It's a great laugh. But for now, I'm going to bid you a good night. Thank you so much for coming along. And thanks, y'all. Cheers.